market for an electric car but are on the fence, especially with this whole recent conversation which is not really favoring electric cars. So you're on the fence, you're thinking maybe I should still stick with ICE for the next couple of years. Well, I'm here to tell you that Mahindra are really keen to nudge you on the other side of the fence, nudge you towards the era of full electrification. This is huge, and I don't just mean about this car because this is big, but we'll come to that. But Mahindra's whole electrification journey, this new chapter is massive. Mahindra have thrown everything at this. To give you a frame of reference, suppose how much was spent in the Thar ROXX development. 10, maybe even 50 times that has gone into development of these new battery electric vehicles. Mahindra aren't calling this born electric, even though there is that BE logo on the nose of the B6E, but they're not calling it born electric, they're calling it Electric Origin SUVs. This is the XEV90, that's the BE6E, B6E, that's what Mahindra wants us to call it, but it's just too confusing for me. Both are based on the INGLO architecture, a skateboard architecture, so it is a fully electric vehicle. There cannot be petrol or diesel engines into this. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the XEV90. The BE6E review, that's going to follow at 5 o'clock today, so stay tuned for that. Stay subscribed to the Evo India channel so you are notified for that video drop. For now, we're going to talk about the XEV90, and before we hit the handling track, before we hit the high-speed track, we are in Chennai at Mahindra's SUV Proving Track. We've also driven this on the road, so I'll give you my verdict of how this drives on the road. But before all of that, let's go and talk to Mahindra Design Chief Pratap Bose about his favorite features on the XEV90, and I'll tell you why the rear, I think, is slightly bulbous. Pratap, we're going to first talk about the XEV90. Have I pronounced that right?
Absolutely.
So talk us through the design.
XEV90, of course, starts with our new Unlimit badge on the hood. Why have we done this long hood, these power bulges? You know, people say EVs don't need that. I really think that in a segment that the XEV90 goes into, some of the visual traits of what an SUV is very, very important to retain. So this actually symbolizes power. Now, if it's got an engine underneath or not, I don't think is as important as what it promises you. Again, the grille. Yes, here you don't need a cooling surface, but we've still given some very, very fine slots to give it that look of a grille, but it's not, of course, a dark grille with an intake and all of that. So it's not conventional in that sense. Again, the lamps push to the corners with this coast-to-coast, edge-to-edge DRL. Beautiful detailing inside. People really look into lamps, especially in this segment. This is very different from what we've done on 6E to make that differentiation because the customer is different. The person who buys the XEV90 comes from a world of performance, of luxury, of understatement, of elegance, all of that. So everything in this product is towards that. Now, people can see this is a coupe, but look how high that rear ingress area actually is. So getting in and out of the car is no problem. Sitting inside, tall passengers, no problem. So yes, it's a coupe silhouette, but it's not slammed to the ground. It's not something that people can't fit into. Then again, this beautiful piece of muscle on the rear haunches. In the 3/4, it works really well. It's strong. This line sweeps around, gives it that real presence. We talk at Mahindra a lot about road presence, visual presence, and it does that. Here again, the fuel filler flap or the charger flap is hidden very nicely. It's very subtle. And then you have a huge boot, again, to show its loading capacity. The final thing is this glass which stretches from the front windshield bottom all the way to the roof and then into this last piece of glass on the rear windscreen. And that creates an amazing ambience inside the car. So that is a 90.
Pratap, did you deliberately take some XUV 700Qs and bake into this so that it looks like part of the family?
Yeah, this is very much inspired from and belongs to that XUV, the XUV world of our Mahindra brands. We have 4 brands, as you know, and the 5th one with B. This draws from that because we feel that the XUV customer is potentially an XEV customer, so it's not something that alienates that world. And we've seen how popular the XUV is. One large part of it is design and its performance. And this will do the same in the electric world.
Thank you, Pratap. And now we go head out to drive the XEV.
Thank you. Thank you, Sirish, for having me as always. Thank you.
Thank you. The XEV90 is a little bit more traditional compared to the BE60, but you won't mistake this for anything else. On the road, it looks very striking. But my personal opinion is that the rear is a bit too bulky, a little too chunky. But again, that has been done to account for passenger headroom and to make this a comfortable 5-seater. This is not a 7-seater, and I don't think with this kind of roofline you'll be able to accommodate 7 seats, but there is potential to have a more traditional SUV shape and make this into a 7-seater, and I'm sure that's going to come. As for space, okay, I've got it unlocked. Now, as you would have noticed, getting in, you have to duck your head slightly because of this coupe roofline. Otherwise, you're going to hit your head against the bodywork. But that's the only real drawback of this shape. You will notice that the floor is slightly higher than the XUV 700. That means your under-thigh support is not as great as the XUV 700. I wouldn't criticize this too much, but it's not very good. That obviously accounts for the fact that this is an EV skateboard. You have a flat floor, so that means this can actually be a comfortable 5-seater. You have plenty of knee room. Headroom is okay. I wouldn't say it is very generous, but it's unlikely that you'll ever hit your head on the roof, so it is okay. You get manual sun blinds, which is a nice touch. You get white interiors. Now, this is not a Thar. You're not going to take this off-roading. So it's okay, but this will get dirty. In fact, this test car, I think 2-3 guys have already sat into it and it's looking slightly dirty. So you will have to constantly keep detailing this, but the white interior gives this a sense of spaciousness. Plus you have this panoramic sunroof, which is illuminated. So you have that Mahindra Unlimited logo. Earlier it used to be called the Infinity logo. Now it's called the Unlimited logo. So that is illuminated. You can change the colors. I think it's got some 256 different colors, so you can change the colors, you can change the intensity. The seats, adjustable for recline. I must point out, you have 3 headrests, which is great for safety, but that also means that the driver can't see anything out of the rear view mirror. You have to use your wing mirrors. And that brings me to the only one missing feature on the XEV90 and even the BE60 for that matter. Like the Range Rover, where they have a camera for the rear view mirror, I think they should have integrated that because really you can't see anything out of the rear view mirror. Now you have a 65-watt charger over here, and this slot you can put in an accessory, stick in your iPad or your tablet, and all the screens get synced. So that's a theater mode that Mahindra calls it. So 1, 2, the 2 rear screens, and the passenger screen at the front and the infotainment screen. All 4 screens sync to the same YouTube video that you're playing or the music that you're playing. That's nice. The music, 16-speaker Harman Kardon sound system with Dolby Atmos, the first Indian car to have Dolby Atmos. It's banging. It sounds really good. This doors, they open 90 degrees. That's a cool touch. So overall, this is positioned as the luxury variant amongst these 2 electric SUVs, and this does feel properly luxurious. You also have a boss mode for the passenger seat. So everything is there, and it really is nicely done. Plus, when we hit the road, I will talk about the ride comfort, and I can tell you that if you're being chauffeured in the 9E, you will be a happy person. The cabin of the XEV90 is headlined by this coast to coast, that's what Mahindra calls it, this massive slab of digital real estate. It incorporates 3 screens. So you have a passenger screen, you have a central infotainment screen, and you have the digital cluster for the driver. On the passenger screen, you can watch YouTube videos, for instance, and that can be synced to the aftermarket accessory, the tablet that you plug into the rear seats, and all of them can watch the same YouTube video with this superb sound system. The architecture of the dash reminds you of the XUV 700, the seat controls on the doors, the door pads, all of this does remind you of the XUV 700. Also, this feels more airy than the 6E. The 6E has got this enveloping dash, so that makes it feel slightly more compact. But otherwise, in terms of the wheelbase, both are identical. 2775 mm, the width is also the same. In terms of operating, this has got the widget system and it's got a new OS which actually works very well. This is the new Mahindra steering wheel for their electric vehicles. The BE6E has got flat at the top and the bottom. The 9E is round in shape. It's got a two-spoke design, which is sort of the theme nowadays, illuminated logo. This black gloss panel, it's a fingerprint magnet. Now you have these two wings. That's to adjust the regeneration modes. At the bottom, the left one, now that is to activate the one pedal driving mode, so where it comes to a complete stop without you even touching the brake. And on the right, that's the boost mode, 10 seconds of boost, so you get more performance out of the battery packs. You also have different modes. Now that you adjust using the panel on the center console. So you press this over here and you have everyday is your normal driving mode. You have your range mode, which gives you more range, obviously. Also the colors change. And you have race mode, where you get full-on performance. And you also get the 200 kilometers per hour top speed. That's what we're going to go test right now. So what does the XEV 9E drive like? We are on the handling track at the Mahindra SUV Proving Grounds. And this is new. The last time we were here, when we did the XEV 700 24-hour endurance records, that time this handling track did not exist. So Mahindra have been constantly investing in the facility, and all the investment in the facility is paying off, because when you have your own dedicated track like this, your own playground like this, you can develop cars to a really, really high standard. And in a nutshell, that's what the XEV 9E is. In the past, we have said that Indian car manufacturers, they do their last 10% of R&D on customers. They always come to market slightly unfinished. With this, in all honesty, I cannot say that, because this feels properly finished. The software, and we'll come to that, that needs a little bit of refinement. Also, the one pedal mode needs a little bit of refinement. But apart from that, this is really good. Now we'll go attack a couple of corners. Our photographers are also there. This tight corner. This really handles. This can grip. Now, there is a benefit to using the skateboard architecture. Obviously, an electric vehicle is heavy, so there is a lot of weight. But using the skateboard, because the batteries are low down in the floor, all the weight is low, the center of gravity is low, and that gives you good handling. Mahindra have put what they call semi-active dampers, but that's a bit misleading if you know about semi-active dampers. This is the MTVCL dampers that are already there on the Scorpio N, on the XUV 700, on the Thar Rocks as well. FSD dampers. But they do a really good job. They give the XEV 9E a very long name, but they give this big electric SUV very good handling. This actually has been set up differently to the BE6E. Now, I can't obviously tell you what the BE6E drives like, because we're still under embargo on that smaller electric SUV. But this is softer, obviously for ride comfort, and despite that, I was doing 60 kilometers per hour around that corner. Obviously, ESP cuts in and it tries to save you from yourself, because this doesn't know what you want or your abilities, so to speak. So it has obviously been designed for the lowest common denominator, the lowest common standard of driving that you would find on Indian roads, keep everybody safe. But despite that, this actually is very entertaining to drive. The steering, it's lifeless, I must say, and Mahindra are very fond of putting overly light steering, because their focus has always been on making sure that the cars are easy to drive in the city. But you account for that, you get used to that. I am in race mode. There are 3 modes. There's a range mode, an everyday mode, and a race mode. So I'm in the race mode, which is the more powerful mode. The steering is supposed to weigh up, but I would have liked the steering to weigh up a little bit more. Obviously, the dampers don't change their damping, because these are not active dampers. And now, accounting for all of that, and accounting for the fact that this is slightly softer to give it better ride comfort than the BE6E, you get body roll. obviously, but you also can corner hard. To say that I'm impressed is an understatement. And also, there is this turn of speed. So you have 282 bhp. This is the higher capacity 79 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's an enthusiastically driven BE6E who doesn't understand that on track while you're shooting, you're not supposed to be doing overtaking and all that. But okay, to each their own. It does this car 0 to 100 in 6.8 seconds. That's 1/10 of a second slower than the BE6E. Obviously, the 6E is slightly smaller. And another important aspect to remember is that the BE6E has been designed for slightly sportier handling. So when you launch it, there is less of that lift, so they can give slightly more power at launch. And that's why it accelerates with slightly more vigor than the XEV 9E, but it's just 1/10 of a second, and both do 200 kilometers per hour. So these are quick. These are the quickest vehicles that you can buy that are made in India. Beat that. What a triumph of Indian engineering and abilities of us Indian engineers. Who would have thought that an Indian manufacturer will be able to develop vehicles that set a benchmark in terms of ride and handling for electric vehicles? Why is it that we love BMWs, for instance, or Porsches, for instance? Because they are designed as rear driven and then obviously modified to accommodate all-wheel drive, but they are primarily rear driven, and that's why you get such good handling in those SUVs and cars. And that's what Mahindra have done. Velu, who is the global product planning chief for Mahindra, who is their R&D brains, he said that they did everything to suit the born again or the electric origin architecture. No compromises. They said that this is not going to be the gold standard, this is going to be the Everest standard of electric cars. Now, when you initially look at the specs, you would think that why spend on a Mercedes or a BMW? And that's what Mahindra are also talking about. That why do you need to spend on a luxury electric car? Because in this you have everything that is there on a e-tron or an iX or an EQ. Now you got to take that with a pinch of salt. Obviously at this price, this is incredible value for money. But the Germans, they do quality better. The tactile finish is slightly better. They feel slightly meatier. So this is not a straight up rival to a Merc or a BMW or an Audi. That's a fact. But that said, I'm deeply, deeply impressed by what these electric SUVs can do. Then you have the features on this. Oh, mamma mia, the features on this. For that, we're going to stop and then dive into this 100 centimeter coast to coast screen. The ADAS, it's got level 2 plus ADAS, and the really cool feature is that now suppose you got your active cruise enabled, so that will brake and accelerate basis the car in front. But if the lane to the side is free, if you look there, it actually has got facial recognition, so it reads your face, you tap the indicator and it will automatically switch lanes. How cool is that? The other thing on facial recognition, now it's got that chip Mobile Eye, so similar to Digi Yatra, when you sit in the car, it reads your face and then it sets up the car basis your preferences. So where Mercedes also has that facial recognition and they have that fingerprint reader, here it reads your face and your setup is active on the car. It's like Mahindra have gone with their credit card all over the world. They picked up the best processing power, the best chips, the best technology. Then they brought it down to India and they've told their engineers, who are as good as the best in the world, to put all of that together. And the integration has been done extremely well. Ultimately, you have chip makers, you have your hardware, it is a software, it's how everything is put together. That is what makes the difference. Also, on that front, a little bit more refinement needs to be done. I'll give you an example. Now, when you press this boost button, sometimes if you press it for the second time or the third time, it won't activate over and over again. There has to be a cool down period. It doesn't tell you that, so you don't know what is happening. The other is the one pedal mode. Now you punch this button to put it on, and punch it again to put it off. And if you do that quickly back to back, because the indication stays on for I think 5-8 seconds, you don't know whether it's gone off or what is happening. The other point that I noticed was on this one pedal mode, the regen, the slowing down at the very end between 5 to 0, that is not smooth. That end, that refinement needs to be done. You find a few jerks over there, so that needs sorting out. Also, the tactile feel of the units on the steering wheel, that needs to be better. This regen wings on the top of the 2-spoke dial, it feels, I wouldn't say flimsy, but there is no tactile feel, there is no feedback on this. And the steering wheel on the XEV 9e, this is a regular round steering wheel. I think it's a bit too big. How nicely this has been engineered. To think that an Indian manufacturer setting a global benchmark. We've driven all the best EVs from around the world, from everywhere. They're all there in India. And this, for the price, okay, ignore the price. This on its own is impressive. Then when you consider the price, 23 something lakhs on road, you're not going to get something as well equipped, as well engineered, and as nice to drive as the XEV 9e. This is the Mahindra high-speed testing track where all their SUVs, they don't do cars, all their SUVs are tested. And it's an incredible testament to the kind of investment Mahindra have put in into product development. Also, the long-term vision, because without a facility like this, there's no way they could have made cars like either the 700 or the Scorpio N or the Thar ROXX, or definitely not these electric SUVs. And that's because at the high-speed track, at top speed, these feel stable and so planted. So I'm going to go full send out here, switch into the 4th lane. This is the 9e, the bigger of the two, slightly softer suspension. You hit the banking, we are doing 202 kilometers per hour, and you can feel the G-forces because this is a steep banking. This doesn't have a neutral speed of 250 kilometers per hour like the Natrax high-speed track. You can feel those G-forces pushing you into the track, but the car stays planted. And it also gives you the confidence to really keep pushing. And when you test a car at top speed, throughout, non-stop testing at 200 kilometers per hour, the benefit is that on the road, it will not do anything silly. On the road, it won't scare you. It will always help you in a sticky situation. This is deeply impressive. 202 kilometers per hour, even accounting for speed error, 195 kilometers per hour, makes it a quick car and amongst the quickest Indian vehicles. This is a track that I'm familiar with. When the 700 was launched, we set the 24-hour speed endurance records with the 700 at this very same track. So I'm familiar with the track, spent a lot of time over here, and I also know the kind of impact the track has in terms of G-forces on the car, on your body. And to be able to do this, sustain non-stop 24 hours constantly, that's a testament to the engineering strengths of the vehicle. I have to say, I'm very impressed. Bookings aren't open for either the 9e or the 6e. The go-to market is going to start in Jan of next year. First deliveries are going to happen towards the end of Feb, early March. Also, we don't know prices of all the variants. We only know the prices of the starting variant, which is Pack 1. So Pack 1 of the 9e, that gets the 59 kilowatt hour, the smaller battery pack. On road, 23.59 lakhs, depending on which state you are in. Some states also give you a rebate in terms of the registration, so that will be a little bit more affordable. Affordability is a big talking point on these electric SUVs. Before we came down here, we were talking about Mahindra going premium with their electric SUVs and not getting the volumes that the other main player, Tata Motors with the Nexon EV, have got. But now, when you think about it, at 20.36 lakhs ex-showroom, the starting price, with a 59 kilowatt hour battery pack, with that range that it offers, the performance that it offers, the styling, the features. I think this is on the money. The style, now, it's going to take a little time to digest this, but this is definitely going to get you eyeballs. And I think that is a job well done. Overall, I think Mahindra, they've knocked it out of the park with these electric SUVs. Stay tuned to the Evo India channel. At 5 p.m, we're going to be dropping the review on the BE6E. And I'm going to tell you why that is my personal preference amongst these two electric SUVs.